Good evening and welcome to the 26th Annual Journal Dinner of the Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island. We gather here tonight to celebrate 26 years of tremendous accomplishments. We gather to pay tribute to the center rabbis and to their outstanding staff. And we gather to give honor and appreciation to our very special honorees. So may I ask our honorees to join us, Mr. and Mrs. David and Sherry Kay. Mr. and Mrs. Aryeh and Molly Marenstein. And Mr. and Mrs. Chaim and Frady Siegler. Welcome everybody to the dinner for this new and exciting organization. New and exciting? So you're wondering, are you at the wrong dinner or did I hold the wrong speech? I know it's been 26 years, but this is the right speech. We all know that man finds it difficult to get excited about the same battle, the same war, the same problems, even the same solutions. We're here at the same venue, the same organization, eating the same food, not really the same food, but the same type of food. It all looks the same, but it's really not. Let me explain and also give you a tip about a great investment opportunity. I remember many years ago going to a JHC event and hearing Dov Wallowitz, one of the founders, explain what he and the other founders were trying to accomplish. And I remember, admittedly, being jealous of a man with the vision to see the problems facing our community and the willingness to invest in a solution. I'm not a founder, but I comforted myself by saying, no one told me about the problem, no one asked me to get involved, I didn't have the chance, and now it's just too late. I remember going to a reunion and hearing him say that he wished that he himself had had the foresight to invest in, to start up other JHC organizations. And he bemoaned the many opportunities, the many zechuyos, the many neshamos that were lost. And I remember thinking that though alienated Jewry is a problem, it's taking on a new face. Not only do we need to do outreach, but because of this or because of that, because of a myriad of factors and problems, the Frum community has sprung a leak, and we're losing those who were raised in Torah-observant homes. A new issue, Rahman al-Islam, is born. Kids, uninterested. Kids at risk. Kids on the street. 25 years later, the cure of battle isn't over and new fronts have been opened. There's a need for outreach still and a need for inreach. The JHC has decided that it cannot stand pat. It cannot rest on its laurels and cannot be satisfied staying within its comfort zone of success. That might be the smart thing to do from an organizational perspective. But the JHC answers to a higher calling. The calling of do not stand idly by as your brother or his son or his daughter is at risk to die spiritually. There's no time to consider the financial ramifications of newly expanded focus. There's only time to consider the effect of not acting, the effect on the cloud, the effect on those souls. So the JHC has added new staff, started new initiatives, and targeted new populations. Those programs are best explained by the experts, by the rabbis, and hopefully they will do that tonight. But what does that mean for me and you? It means that we can get in on the ground floor. It means that we can be founders too. It means we have the opportunity to help create the new Jewish Heritage Center. Yes, we missed the original opportunity. But how many of us were aware of the magnitude of the problem? How many of us really appreciated what was at stake? How many of us were asked to get involved? Rarely in life do you get a second chance. Tonight, we're telling you there's a problem. Tonight, we're telling you there's an opportunity. And tonight, we're asking you to invest. Yes, rarely in life do you get an opportunity at a second chance, but here it is. And if we miss it, we'll have nobody to blame but ourselves for letting it slip through our fingers. How many lives need to be lost because of funding constraints? We can help the JHC man the battleship to help all those lost at sea. We no longer have to imagine going back in time and founding the JHC. Instead, become a visionary. Instead, become concerned. Instead, become a partner. And in 25 years from now, instead of regret, you'll be filled with a profound sense of satisfaction. You'll have invested in preserving Klal Yisrael, in saving Hashem's children. You'll have invested in a new organization with a quarter century of experience, and an organization that's adapting to the ever-changing needs of Klal Yisrael. And you'll become part of the solution, a partner in its vital work, responsible for saving the Shabbos. Please consider this opportunity. Please consider tonight an additional opportunity to invest in the JHC, to invest in the future of Klal Yisrael, and really to invest in your own future. Thank you. It's my honor to call on that.
Thank you, Moshe. I feel like I want to get involved. I too want to welcome each and every one of you to our 26th anniversary dinner, marking the end of our first year of our second quarter of a century of outreach to the Jewish community. Wow, it's been a long time. The theme of this year's dinner is appreciating the past, anticipating the future. Appreciating the past, I'll leave it to Rabbi Portnoy later in the program to express our immense gratitude to the many people who are responsible for the absolutely amazing achievements of the last 25 years. I would like to begin by sharing with you our vision for the future and the many steps that have already been taken over this past year, setting into motion an entire array of renewed initiatives, which will lay the groundwork for the Center's much larger scope of activity in the years ahead. This has truly been a year of amazing transition. Last June, as we closed out our quarter of the century, Rabbi Portnoy and I resolved that we would not allow ourselves to be complacent, content with the gratifying accomplishments, as the dinner chairman told you, of the center to date. We feel an achrayus, a responsibility born out of the great bracha, the great blessing that Hashem has given this organization. And you here tonight, each and every one of you, are a part of that bracha. If so much has been achieved, if so many thousands have been helped to be brought closer to a life of Torah, if an organization like this was forged, a known address where Torah and its inspiration can be found, then how much more so must we endeavor to carry that ball forward, to continue to give HaKadosh Baruch Hu a vehicle through which to reach ever greater numbers of Jews. As Rabbi Portnoy and I concretized that resolve a year ago today, Hashem in His infinite kindness, Hashem in His infinite desire for those ever greater number of Jews to be reached, sent us this year a new siyata d'shmaya, a new divine assistance. And it came in the form of a cadre of young, talented, dedicated rabbis, who we are confident will help the staff of the Jewish Heritage Center carry the invincible power of Torah into the next quarter of a century. In the past 1 year alone, the center has hired 5 new outreach rabbis. We've started 3 entirely new divisions, and we have put a whole new face on our existing Long Island division. This virtual explosion of activity began last summer when the center was invigorated with the infusion of 2 young, energetic, and extremely proficient individuals. It was really their capable efforts and long hours, usually well into the night, that enabled so many ideas of ours that had been on the drawing board for too long to finally see the light of day. Our office staff had been maxed out with existing programs. To begin new ventures took the hiring of this hardworking team with familiar-sounding last names that really require no introduction. But allow me to introduce anyway. Avram Portnoy and Elio Turk, please stand up. Had I said this last year, you would have called me biased. But after a year on the job, they have modernized and expanded our online publicity. They have redesigned and upgraded our websites. They've introduced social media. And they took charge of 2 new divisions. 2 divisions. 1 new and 1 pre-existing. 1 long-term and 1 stepping in to direct only temporarily. Our new Teen InReach division was an idea they had brought to the center, an idea whose time had come. One prong, arguably the most important prong of any Kiruv initiative today, has to be to stem the tide of alienation before people leave the fold. They posited that we can't even afford to wait until children have been identified as at risk, but rather programs need to be in place to strengthen the intrinsic happiness and self-esteem of our children and their satisfaction with Torah before they begin to falter in the yeshiva system. They formed and ran Teen Minyanim in Kew Garden Hills and in Kew Gardens, where some 50 yeshiva high school students each week now feel that they have found a niche where they belong, where they have rabbis who are speaking specifically to them and not to their parents. Wednesday night chant and learning. Saturday nights they initiated healthy programs with safe outlets and activities. Summer night programs of learning and trips. Mentoring programs soon to follow. All with the critical objective of bolstering our children's sense of self and love of Torah before they are even tempted to veer off. On Long Island, Avram and Eliyahu temporarily assumed responsibility for our Nassau County Division of Outreach. They began a major new initiative in partnership with Henk of Plainview, targeting secular families with young children, and launched a series of groundbreaking programs which already this year have brought in over 200 new people through our doors. They provided the extensive administrative support for the center's first all-women outreach mission to Israel, which will be led next month by my wife and Rabbi Portnoy's wife. Which will be part of the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, an organization which provides inspirational tours in Israel where our women from Long Island will join 400 other secular women coming with outreach groups from all around the country. While they assumed directorship of this initiative temporarily and initiated its first round of exciting programs, we conducted a search for yet another energetic young rabbi who would move into Nassau County and assume direction of this major new initiative of our Long Island division. We were pleased to announce just last week, and I am excited to tell you tonight, that we have just engaged just such a talented and enthusiastic young rabbi who will be taking over this rapidly expanding division this coming summer. Please meet the dynamic Rabbi Yaakov Gruenstein. programming was unfolding over the year, it became apparent to us that there were not only huge numbers of mainstream American Jews on the island, but a considerable population of Iranian Jews living principally in Great Neck, Roslyn, and Plainview, who, although not committed to Torah, were yet much less assimilated than their American cousins. HaKadosh Baruch Hu here too led us to discover, and we were fortunate to be able to engage the services of a young graduate of Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim. Surprised? Himself an Iranian, although educated in Ashkenazi yeshivas up to and including rabbinic smicha. He has been the popular rabbi for 2 years already of the Iranian shul in Plainview, and was hired by the center to broaden his focus to non-observant Persians and other Sephardic groups on Long Island. Allow me to introduce tonight the director of our new Long Island Sephardic division, Rabbi Yaakov Visoki. And finally, the most unusual, and in many ways the most remarkable new effort begun by the center this year, is the center's new division, working with Hasidic youth in Brooklyn who have gone off the derech. Many of you already know here the miraculous story about how this came about. How at the center reunion last year, the Hasidic Mizamrim singers beheld 300 Jewish Heritage Center alumni and their families, saw what the center had accomplished, and said, we need you in Brooklyn, in the Hasidic community of Brooklyn. And Rabbi Portnoy turns to me and says, we're opening up. We're going to the Hasidic communities in Brooklyn. And I told Rabbi Portnoy, you're crazy. The whole summer we talked about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard the resolve. On Yom Kippur, we suddenly find ourselves in a hotel in New Jersey, and some 10 Hasidic youth running away from Yom Kippur walk into the hotel, and we don't know who's more surprised to see who. Amazing, beautiful, and also kids, beautiful young people. After Yom Kippur, Rabbi Portnoy invited them to his sukkah on Sukkot. Those 10 brought more, there were 25. Those 25 we invited to a Shabbaton. We had an amazing Shabbaton with them in New Jersey, 53. And so was born our newest division. But all year the question was, who could direct such an effort? These Hasidic youth themselves introduced us to a fascinating and talented young rabbi who was already toiling day and night with much success on their behalf. Tonight I can as well introduce to you the new director of our Hasidic division, who has taken charge of the some 200 youth that we've already begun to meet and work with, who helped us open and is managing a drop-in center on McDonald and Ditmas Avenue in Brooklyn, filling it with social, educational, and career-enabling programs. Meet the director of the center's activities in the heart of Brooklyn, New York, Rabbi Ozer Babad. 5 new rabbis, 3 all-new divisions, and 1 division completely invigorated with a whole new set of exciting initiatives. This is how we spent the 26th year of the Jewish Heritage Center. Our dear friend and dinner chairman put it so well. It's a new beginning, a beginning built on a strong past. We are not stopping what we were doing with success before. We are continuing the work that Hashem has helped us so long to do. But we're not stopping there. We can't afford to stop there. We're growing, expanding, reaching out in more ways and in more directions. Help us. Join us. Together, let's show Hashem we get it. We see the opportunity that he is giving us to spread his Torah to more people. People desperately in need of that Torah. So we will spread his Torah and keep spreading his Torah until there's nobody out there left that needs us to spread Torah to, and nobody within our midst in danger of falling out. For all of your past help, we deeply thank you. For your renewed help of our renewed efforts, we thank you even more. Thank you. Our first presentation this evening. The Jewish Heritage Center's Gil and Marilyn Miller Community Service Award was established by their children, Beverly and Leslie Hornstein, and Frola and Stephen Sprung. To recognize individuals who have made outstanding contributions to the Jewish community. This year, the center is so proud to bestow this special honor on our dear friends and Jewish Heritage Center alumni, Aryeh and Molly Maris. I want to tell you, when I see Israeli soldiers, typically in Israel, often at the Kotel, I feel like I just want to go over to each and every one of them and give them a hug. It is not often that many of us have an opportunity to express our appreciation to the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. It is an honor this year to bestow the Center's Community Service Award to someone who served, who volunteered to serve in the infantry of the IDF. Aryeh Marenstein is one very interesting person. He has a wide range of interests and expertise that include being an accomplished chef, trained at the prestigious CIA, that's Culinary Institute of America, a fine wine enthusiast, and a student of classical guitar. Yet what fascinates me most about Aryeh is the focus, the seriousness, the strength, and the dedication that he puts in all things and all relationships that he values. Aryeh has a courage and a commitment with which he faces all of life. The same courage that moved him to join the Israeli army was one that I saw him exhibit later in life, working for the New York City Police Force. He took his job seriously, as he does these days as head of security for Yeshiva Har HaTorah. And although he worked some terrible neighborhoods and housing projects, he always seemed fearless, ready to throw himself in harm's way if necessary to get the job done. This was a dedication that got him injured in the line of duty on more than one occasion. And it was the same kind of courage that he displayed while on the police force in an entirely different way. Aryeh came to the center and began studying Torah in earnest. Soon began observing Shabbos after he had already established himself as a police officer. This was far from an easy task, especially in the culture of the NYPD such that it is. For him to suddenly tell them that he cannot do Saturday tours. He took a lot of pushback, if not outright animosity, from resentful fellow officers and even superiors, who either couldn't or didn't want to believe in the sincerity that prompted him to now insist that he cannot work on Shabbos and Yom Tov. His career took a hit, and his placements became those that others found undesirable. But Aryeh was never one to quit or falter in the face of adversity. His was a true Mesiras Nefesh for Shabbos not experienced by many these days. This dedication to protect the citizens of New York and his dedication for Shabbos was the same dedication with which he threw himself into learning Torah and with which he pushed himself to learn Haftorahs and davening for the Amid, both of which he came to do at the center with a good amount of proficiency. Aryeh always had a strong connection to Judaism and a deep set of values. But after coming to the center, his focus and desire to excel propelled him in Torah and mitzvahs, the way that carried him to excel in all the pursuits of his life. And he stood out not just in what he took from the center, but as well in what he gave to the center, taking responsibility personally for Center Minyanim, how the center looked, how the center functioned. And then Aryeh met Molly, and she, as we say, married into the center. Molly's personality is somewhat different from Aryeh, and in many ways, she shares so many of these same qualities and core values as he. She certainly joined him in his love for and attachment to the center, and to many of our alumni and to the rabbis and their families. And they in turn were all taken by her. She's such a straight person, so yashar, as they say in Israel, where she comes from. Can I say it? While marrying Aryeh has to have been a real trip. Yet hers, in many ways, was the harder role to play in the face of all his fearlessness. How often did Molly lay awake at night wondering what risks Aryeh was taking in places like Brownsville, knowing that he would never shirk from a confrontation with hoodlums or riffraff. What an honor to know such people. What a pleasure to be friends with such people. What a special treat it is to be able to bestow our Community Service Award to people who have given so much service. Service to our organization, as they did for so many years when living still in Garden Hills. So much service to our community, as when he worked to keep the streets of Brooklyn and later Queens safer, and now our children in Yeshiva secure, and perhaps above all else, such service to our land, as he did in the infantry of the Israel Defense Forces. So it is with much pride that I ask Rabbi Portnoy to join me now as we present the Jewish Heritage Center's Gil and Marilyn Miller Community Service Award to these deserving recipients, two of our own, Aryeh and Molly Marenstein.
Presented to our dear friends, Aryeh and Molly Marenstein, with appreciation and admiration for all they have done for us, for our community, and for Am Yisrael. Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island, 26th Annual Journal Dinner, June 23rd, signed by Rabbi Portnoy.
Start by thanking Hashem for bringing Molly and I to where we are in our lives today. And for bringing me some 13 odd years ago through the front doors of the Jewish Heritage Center into the arms of Rabbi Turk and Rabbi Portnoy and their wonderful families. Because of them in the Jewish Heritage Center, I live a better life, a more meaningful life, and so does Molly, and so, God willing, we're all children. And I want to thank Rabbi Turk and Rabbi Portnoy for affording Molly and me this opportunity to help the JHC as they continue now in their 26th year to Merkav Jews of varying backgrounds to a life of Torah and mitzvah. Molly and I also want to extend our gratitude and appreciation to all our friends and acquaintances and everyone else who are present here this evening and night, who to the best of their abilities contributed to the JHC mission. Ideally, if things were well with us as a community, there would be no need for a Jewish Heritage Center. no need for kiruv. No Jew would fail to recognize or turn his or her back on such a grand inheritance. However, things being what they are, with the latest findings on Jewish life in America, disseminated by the Pew Research Center and quoted in the summer edition of Jewish Action, the magazine of the Orthodox Union, 44% of American Jews have a non-Jewish spouse, and the less observant or unaffiliated one is, the larger percentage of intermarriage. 2% of Orthodox Jews, 27% of conservative Jews, 50% of Reform Jews, and 69% of non-affiliated Jews reported having a non-Jewish spouse. When the loss of even one Jew is a tragedy, what do these numbers represent? Not only does it harm us as a nation in the present, it robs us of a strong, secure future as the children of intermarried couples become even further estranged or lost completely. On the other side, today, 3 out of every 10 Orthodox Jews were not born into or raised in Orthodox families. A testimony not only to the call to Torah, but the success of organizations such as the JHC and the personal sacrifices made by kiruv rabbis and their families. Shunning cookie-cutter conformity and overnight sin-into-sin transformations of the spirit, which often result in easy-come, easy-go religious affiliations. Rabbi Portnoy and Rabbi Turk, along with the assistant rabbis and support staff of the JHC, have built a kiruv process built upon a solid foundation of intellectual honesty and learning, taking each person as they are and allowing them, unpressured, to explore Judaism and progress at an individual pace. As Rabbi Turk once said to me as we sat together in his office, and he was answering my question as to what the end goal of all this looked like, he said, "Our goal is not to get you to look like me. The dress is not important. We want our students to be, to the best of their ability, Shomrei Torah and Mitzvot. To know that their method of slow and steady wins the race is a successful one just needs to look around this room and see people who walked through the center's doors 10, 15, even 20 years ago, and then look at their children, from birth, graduating from yeshiva day schools. Many of them went to Beit Midrashim and even Kollel, and in Yitzhak Hashem, some of them becoming the next generation of rabbis. My personal story is a typical one. While Mali, through early childhood, was raised in a traditional Sephardi household in Israel, and then upon our arrival in this country, studied in yeshiva, my family, having escaped the Cossacks in the late 1800s, were as fiercely proud of being American as Jewish, and Jewish as they were religious. And so, like many raised in the conservative movement of the 70s and 80s, upon coming to Bar Mitzvah, I ran for the door and spent the next 17 years doing as I pleased. While always being proud of being a Jew, ardently Zionistic, and never entertaining the thought of intermarrying, the idea of living a religious life never appealed to me, even less so during the years I spent in Israel, most of them in Jerusalem. So when people ask me, how did this happen? I answer truthfully, I don't know. I did not experience an epiphany, or a dream, or sudden tragic loss, or a near-death experience, nor any of the other stereotypical catalysts that often propel people to seek out spirituality or a deeper meaning to life. I just wanted to learn. I remember my first meeting with Rabbi Turk, and after explaining to the rabbi exactly what I was looking to accomplish, and Rabbi sensing that the center would be a good place for me, and stating that he's agreeing to learn with me, I established certain conditions that my return to the center would depend on. I politely explained that I was a typical American cynic and a cop, and therefore I knew when people were being dishonest with me, and when I was being manipulated, and that I would not be pressured. I would, based on our learning, draw my own conclusions, make my own decisions, and if I sensed anything amiss or cultish, I'd be gone. Obviously, Rabbi Turk held up at his end of the agreement. There is only one thing I can call Rabbi Turk to task for, and that is an act of omission, which I believe all kiruv rabbis receive forgiveness for up front, in this world and the next. For in this case, for the sake of the greater good, the ends justify the means. This act of omission is the failure to disclose to potential balei tshuva just how expensive this whole proposition is. I'm going to conclude by sharing with everyone a list of my first Jewish or Heritage Center experiences. I believe this list accurately portrays what the center does for people and how important it is for Jewish continuity that we have the rabbis and rebbitzins that we do. Thanks to the center, for the first time, I've had to write a speech and stand up in front of people. Many of whom I do not know, give that speech. I had my first real Shomer Shabbos experience through the center. Thank you, Rabbi Robertson Turk. I had my first real Seudat Purim through the center. Thank you, Rabbi Robertson Turk. I learned my first Blad Gemara in the center. Thank you, Rabbi Schwartz. I learned my first Mercer lesson, my first Mishnah Berurah, my first Shulchan Aruch, my first Mishnah. I relearned to daven and relearned to learn Torah. I learned to learn Torah and learn Torah at the center. Thank you, Tzvi. Through the center, I sat with my first chavrusa after walking through the doors of yeshiva into its Beit Medrash for the first time, and for the first time learned Rashi and Rambam and Tosafot and Onkelos, etc. I learned a third language at the center, Ivris. In the center, for the first time, I experienced what Tisha B'Av should sound and feel like if you're not at work. I learned Shabbos Mirod, which I now sing to my children. I learned to be the Baal Tefillah on Erev Shabbos. Thank you, Dr. Guy Mayer. I learned to stay up at least most of the night, first day Shavuos, and to say brachot over my food and make chant for 30 people. And the list goes on. But most of all, and I am speaking for both my wife and I, we learned to be better people and to live more meaningful lives. Thank you, Rabbi Turk and Rabbi Portnoy and Rabbi Schwartz and your Rebbetzins and your families for all they have done for us and will continue to do in the future. And thank you to all of our friends who are more like an extended family to Molly and I. It's good to know that regardless of where it ends up, the Jewish Center are like other families. Once you're in, you're in. And you know that there are people who will always be there for you in good times and bad. Thank you.
Our second presentation this evening is our Alumni of the Year Award, which we are so pleased to present to the very special Chaim and Frady Siegler. Rabbi Schwartz, once again, you said it best when you said that this couple is the perfect example of the Jewish Heritage Center's often stated goal to provide guided growth through Torah. At this stage of my life, I no longer always remember the first meeting I had with center students. But when it comes to the Sieglers, I vividly recall the first time I met each of them. I remember meeting Frady, then Debbie Rowlick, in June 1999. When I asked her to fill out our registration form, which asked her what programs of the Jewish Heritage Center interested her, she wrote, everything. I recall her sitting in my office, and I remember how taken in I was by this very special woman. She had questions, good questions. She wanted to enter the world of Torah, but wasn't sure if she was ready for it or how to go about it. I remember being impressed with a woman who was insightful, perceptive, self-aware, and who had already shown such strength in life. She wasn't afraid to question herself or her assumptions, and was truly open, in spite of her own perceptivity and strength, to accept the guidance of a rabbi. She had then and now a profound humility and was quick to hear other perspectives and able to laugh at her own misconceptions. I also remember meeting Chaim, who was in Harvey, for the first time after he had just returned from a life-altering experience learning at Eshet Torah in Jerusalem. He was pretty much, as we say, just off the plane and experiencing a particular type of culture shock. One that is familiar to many of us, common to those who return to American society after being immersed in a Baal Tshuva yeshiva in Yerushalayim. He was in search of guidance to make his re-entry into life here in a balanced way, maintaining the enthusiasm and strength of commitment, while at the same time integrating into the role of a professional working and living in a predominantly secular society. Both Chaim and Frady began learning at and through the Jewish Heritage Center. Both became mainstays at JHC events, classes, and at our Shabbos tables. Both became close to center rabbis, other center students, and alumni. One of our local JHC families saw the parallel growth of these two special individuals, each looking for growth in Torah, and introduced them to each other. Soon they were one couple growing together, making their home in Kew Hills and their home away from home, the center. Chaim left engineering for teaching in the public school system so that he would have more time to keep Torah learning a priority in his life. He threw himself into Torah study, first at center shiurim, then during the summers at Yeshiva Madregas Adam, and later that became evenings as well throughout the year. Frady not only committed herself to a life of Torah, she excelled in it, using Torah as her guide. She took her strength to new levels, working on Musar, on Bitachon, on Tznius, and on parenting. Both of them came to see Torah as a practical guide with which to constantly strive while looking to the rabbis to find the right balance. In their appreciation of the center's role in their lives, they've always tried to do what they could to support the growth of the center, and indeed have given much of themselves, their time, their energy, as is evident every Shabbos morning at the center, where Chaim is the first to arrive and make sure that all that is in order, and the entire Siegler family is the last to leave, cleaning up after everyone else and waiting to be the last out the door. This is not a simple matter when you consider that it is done virtually every week of the year, regardless of their own guests or the various places which they may need to go. Yet the greatest gift that they give us at the center is the way they demonstrate, with edelkeit, gentleness and humility, lives that are powerhouses of bitachon, of faith, of sincerity, and of the openness to keep looking for Torah guidance and growth. Truly, as Rabbi Schwartz said, they are beautiful, shining examples of our intended mission to provide guided growth through Torah. And therefore it is with much pride and gratitude that I ask Rabbi Portnoy to join me once again as we present the Jewish Heritage Center's Alumni of the Year Award to this very special couple, Chaim and Frady Siegler.
Presented with gratitude and respect to Chaim and Frady Siegler, whose kindness, sincerity, and love of Torah is an inspiration to all who know them. Jewish Heritage Center, Queens, Long Island, 26th Annual Journal Dinner, June 23rd.
Rabbi Portnoy, Rabbi Turk, JHC staff, fellow honorees, distinguished guests, friends, and family. My wife, Frady, or Debbie, and I are so glad to see you all here tonight. A little over 13 years ago, Frady and I celebrated our wedding in this very place. Rabbi Turk offered much of his time and guidance during the dating process and officiated our wedding. Rabbi Portnoy gave us his tireless effort in helping us plan our wedding, as well as Rabbi Schwartz, who was my personal chassan teacher, whom I learned much from. Since then, we have had two wonderful daughters, a home very close to the center's main office, and become very much part of a great Jewish community. 3 words stand out for us that truly define the essence of what the Jewish Heritage Center is all about. They are inspiring, supportive, and committed. We see the rabbis, rebbetins, and staff as lifetime partners who always make themselves available to us. We are truly grateful that Hashem has directed us to the Jewish Heritage Center. We could not imagine getting through these 13 years of becoming from the learning of the basics to the advanced classes, and just as important, the maintaining of that commitment without them. Frady and I thank you very much for this honor. Mazel tov to David and Sherry Kay, as well as Aryeh and Molly Marenston. May all of your endeavors be filled with much success. Thank you, Rabbi and Rebbetzin Turk, Rabbi and Rebbetzin Portnoy, Mom, Gelly, Leah, and most of all, my Ashes Chayil, Frady. Because of all of you, we live a life that is full of real richness. Thank you.
David, we'll get to you in a moment. While the JHC is focused on the future, our dream, our vision for the following 25 years, as Rabbi Turk discussed earlier, is built upon the strong foundation of the past quarter century of JHC efforts. There is so much that has been accomplished, and we have been zocheh to so much siyata d'shmaya, divine assistance, for which we are eternally grateful. The achievements of these past 25 years have been gratifying in and of themselves. How much more so as we now see that groundwork setting the stage for our new, exciting, and challenging next 25 years, Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach. And there are so many individuals to whom we are so indebted to and appreciative of, who have been responsible for our past accomplishments and have facilitated these great new opportunities. As mentioned earlier by Moshe Schwerd, our dinner chairman, the center was the brainchild of 4 magnanimous philanthropists who had the initial vision, a dream of a center such as the Jewish Heritage Center, and who single-handedly supported us financially through our formative years. Representing the 4 founding couples to whom the center owes its very existence to, we are honored to have with us this evening Mr. and Mrs. Edward and Phyllis Chernoff, Rabbi and Mrs. Dov and Marilyn Wallowitz. The center's ability to reach, to touch, and to move so many thousands of people through literally hundreds of projects, initiatives, and programs and efforts over the last quarter century that would never have been remotely possible without the many talented and incredibly capable individuals we were fortunate to have in our rabbinic staff, both current and in the past. People like our sensitive and caring director of campus outreach, whom we told you so much about at our last dinner, and who's now Long Island University's official head of Jewish life at their Long Island campus, Rabbi Yoni Katz. And as well, we recognize how so much of what the JHC is has been shaped by a lineup of highly effective rabbis and instructors, and one in particular, with us for so many years, the brilliant and insightful Rabbi David Schwartz. Over the last quarter century, we were fortunate to have several capable administrative assistants: Sandy Kaplan, Mrs. Jamie Mayo, and this year's new addition, Mrs. Renee Hershkowitz. Besides our wives, and in truth the wives of all of the rabbinic staff, there are many others behind the scenes who toiled anonymously in so many different ways, on so many different aspects of the center's activities, who would prefer not to be mentioned, but we and you know who you are. Thank you. Last but not least, Achron Chaviv, is none of this would ever have been possible without the support of you, our most loyal friends and supporters, who have played such a critical role in enabling the center to thrive and to reach goal after goal, allowing us to see our dream come true. For your help, support, and encouragement, we say thank you and wish you the bracha of Aritasi Lachem Bracha Ad B'Lidai, that Hashem should shower all of you with blessing that know no bounds. And now I turn, as he does, to two. It's okay, Sherry. And now I turn to two particularly important individuals upon whom the center's successes have relied on for the past 18 years. This evening's very special guests of honor, David and Sherry. There are very few establishments where the role and the mina of the administrator is as critical to success as it is in outreach. If this is true in outreach in general, it is so much more so in the case of the Jewish Heritage Center. The pace of activity at the center throughout the years has been virtually nonstop as we go through the year, literally, from one major event to the next major event. All the while maintaining so many ongoing classes and Kiruv programs, week in, week out, year in, year out, both in Queens and on Long Island. As Rabbi Turk and I look back on 26 years of that hectic pace of activity, we are humbled by the awareness of how public the faces of the rabbis have become. And we are awed by how much of what has been accomplished has only been made possible due to the incredible talent, dedication, and professionalism of our very own David Kay. The list of roles and responsibilities that David Kay assumed, I could go on for hours, but allow me just to provide some highlights. There were the classes and educational programs that we spoke of a moment ago that took place constantly, semester after semester, at many locations. So I remember David. I remember David, the designer, copywriter, proofreader, producing monthly and quarterly brochures and flyers. And in the earlier years, David, I remember you, David, the printer, at our very own Risso room, working the printing and folding machines. And then, of course, David, I remember David, the mailer, organizing, coding, preparing the bulk mailings, and then David even schlepping those bags to College Point post office where you needed to deliver the bulk mail. And then there are the holiday retreats, beginning with the relatively simple ones back in the Camp Sternberg days to the more than 1,200 people that joined us each of the past several Pesachs. David, I remember the PR, the designer, copywriter, proofreader of newspaper advertisements, brochures and flyers, reservations, rooming, dining, children's programs, logistics, setups. And in the early years, I remember David trucking, even those years, the truck driver, as David schlepped what was needed to every event. Remember those days, David. David handles all that comes, he's trying to forget them, but I'm reminded. David handles all that comes his way with such apparent ease that many are not aware of the long and late hours put in before and after each event. And then there are all of the fundraising events. The women's teas that evolved into the Chinese auction, the trip to Israel raffles, the holiday mailings. And I go on and on. How did he even find time to fit it all in? But then again, also, well, then there's David, the plant manager, custodian, ensuring that the facilities are maintained and working, paid for, supplied for, staffed. And on top of it all, to handle all of this professionally and calmly with this trademark blend of warmth, humor, and concern, all of which provided a personable, embracing, and professional public face to our center, which belied the hectic pace and activity and the huge number of its projects that was simultaneously competing for his attention. Sometimes think that the answering service at the center should say as follows: you've reached the Jewish Heritage Center. For accounts receivable, dial David K. extension 102. For accounts payable, extension 102. Bookkeeping, extension 102. Payroll, extension 102. Health insurance and administration, extension 102. For an ear to complain to. For a shoulder to cry on, extension 102. Human resources, please dial. Guess what? Extension 102. For, guess who? David K. David, all of your hard work and all of your long hours resulted in two things. One obvious outcome is how it allowed the center to keep up its pace and provided the rabbis, provided us with so much more time to spend with and remain focused on our students and the building of our dream, the Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island. But as I mentioned, your long hours resulted in two things. And it is for that reason that the acknowledgement and credit is not yours alone. The second outcome of all of David's tireless efforts was not felt at the center, but rather at home. It placed a huge burden of his equally dedicated wife, Sherry, who with grace and unending energy shouldered the lion's share at home, to the point that we never in 18 years ever felt her vying with us for his time. This is truly extraordinary. And not only did she do double time, triple time on family needs, Sherry found the time and energy to go further, opening her home and her heart to center students. She and David became intimately involved with so many center students and alumni, serving as role models, confidants, and friends. Theirs was an amazing partnership, and the center, its rabbinic staff, and most importantly, the center students were the beneficiaries of that partnership for the last 18 years. Isn't it therefore abundantly clear to everyone that all that is ours, all that the center has accomplished for so long, is very much to your credit, David and Sherry. There's an old saying, if you don't build your own dreams, someone will hire you to build theirs. David, you along with Sherry, built our dream. Now that you have decided to embark on the next stage of your career, starting a business to provide event planning, nonprofit consulting, and project implementation, we are confident that you will build your dream, as well as the dreams of those of your very fortunate clients. Tonight is a night of appreciation. But our appreciation for what you have done for the center extends beyond tonight's dinner and these verbal expressions of gratitude. One of the more concrete ways the center has chosen to show its appreciation to the case is to ease David's transition and becoming an independent contractor, and to help him build his dream as he helped build our dream. We are becoming, hopefully, the first client of his new venture. The center will be engaging David's services to continue administrating our hotel events, while our new administrator will concentrate on the center's general operations and the growth of our many new divisions. So if you are a student of the center, if you're an alumnus of the center, if you're a supporter of the center, even those from Greenwald Caterers that are here this evening, you have benefited from David's tireless efforts, his warmth, and his professionalism. For that reason, I ask all of you to join me, as I ask Rabbi Turk to join me as we, on behalf of the entire Jewish Heritage Center, makes its final presentation this evening to our very beloved guests of honor, David and Sherry Page.
This original piece of artwork that we had commissioned reads in its center the pasuk in Malachim, Re'ei Beischa David. It's a pasuk that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, referring to the Beis HaMikdash, look at the edifice of yours, David. And the Mechilta tells us, Kiven Shemosar Nafsho Olov Nikra Al Shmo. Since David, was Moser Nefesh on that edifice, it is accredited to him. For 18 years, as the head of administration of the Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island, 18 years of overseeing these 18 representative functions, Chinese auctions, libraries, brochures, buildings, raffles, journal dinners, parlor meetings, etc., facilitated 18 years of these 18 divisions of the Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island. The inscription reads, presented as a small token of our abundant gratitude to our dear friends David and Sherry Kay. Behind many a large organization is a dedicated, tireless administrator, toiling lay v'nefesh day and night. And behind every such administrator is an equally dedicated spouse, providing support and encouragement and shouldering a greater burden to enable that effort. For 18 years, the Center's frenetic pace of growth has been facilitated by the steadfast commitment of this couple. All of the accomplishments of the Jewish Heritage Center, its staff and its students, are an enduring legacy of their extraordinary Mesiras Nefesh. Jewish Heritage Center of Queens and Long Island, 26th Annual Journal Dinner, June 23rd, 2014.
We reserve the right for rebuttal.
Enough with the schmaltz. Good evening and welcome to the third annual celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Jewish Heritage Center. Josh, if you let him know, it'll be about 5-10 minutes, depending on the timing of the applause. So this is the big goodbye. If I had known it would be such a fun party, I would have left years ago. Normally, I would honor the rabbi's request to speak only for a few minutes, but it's been 18 years, I have a lot to say, and I probably won't get this chance again. The best part, as Rabbi Portnoy alluded to, is that I'm the last speaker, so there will not be any rebuttal. I know 18 years sounds like a long time, but it's true what they say about time passing quickly when you're having so much fun. It seems like only 17 years ago that I came to the Jewish Heritage Center. I remember it was Rabbi David Schwartz that personally answered the door. This was before they invented the buzzer system. I remember Sandy Kaplan had her office set up in the kitchen. That was a long time ago. And so much has changed since then, both at the JHC as well as our own family. In the past 18 years, our family has, Baruch Hashem, expanded by 2 children, 1 son-in-law, 1 granddaughter, and speaking for myself, at least 15 pounds. On a side note, anyone that knows my wife and I personally knows very well that while I really enjoy public speaking, it would be much better if she was speaking tonight instead of me. However, the only way she would have agreed to that is if I would take her place in the Hafnasas Kala next November. So here I am. I've actually had a hard time deciding what I'm supposed to be talking about this evening. Even though I've had several weeks to think about it, still not so easy. Obviously, I could talk about Rabbi Portnoy and Rabbi Turk. I certainly have plenty to say about the two of them. In fact, purely for entertainment purposes, I recently calculated that I've spent close to 50,000 hours with them over the past 18 years, which is about half the amount of time they've spent with each other. But I'd say I know them pretty well. Still, I really can't say anything too embarrassing. No juicy or embarrassing stories about Rabbi Portnoy for sure. He hasn't signed the payroll checks yet for June. I could talk about Rabbi Turk, but that wouldn't be very fair. So we'll come back to him a little later. I'm absolutely not allowed to talk about my wife. I've already been warned that if I did, I would be exiled to the doghouse for the foreseeable future. Of course, we don't actually have a doghouse, so I'd just be in the backyard. And since we live in Queens, it's not really a yard, a piece of cement. So essentially, I'd be living outside on the cement slab behind our house, worrying about the raccoons all night. So I won't be talking about my wife. I will just say, however, that until I made this very wise decision to share my first draft with Sherry to get her feedback and suggestions, I assure you the speech was a lot longer. Had some very entertaining stories, as well as several hilarious but possibly offensive one-liners. So now it may not be as entertaining, but it will be shorter, and ultimately that's what's most important. I'm not planning to talk about my children. Might get all verklempt. But at the very least, I do have to express appreciation in public for their infinite patience and support that they've provided all these years, giving up plenty of quality family time because I was busy with some JHC event. Too often, when something needed to get done around the house, or if we needed to schedule a family get-together of any kind, the standard answer became, remind me after fill in the blank, auction, dinner, Pesach. It wasn't always easy. At the same time, however, so many of the people that we met through the center have enhanced our Shabbos table immensely and have become good friends. We even gained a terrific brother-in-law in the deal. Baruch Hashem, we've shared many simchas together with our extended JHC family and look forward to sharing many more. Perhaps I should just entertain you with stories about some of the more wacky situations that have occurred at JHC events over the years. We had the dead man in the freezer. Don't ask. The shoeless security guard. Speak to David Lynn, Mazel Tov, by the way. The garbage bag of cash. Don't ask. There was the weightlifting maniac from Clark, New Jersey, the Amish Baal Tshuva from Lancaster, the psycho stalker from Camp Sternberg, and of course our mandatory biannual fire drill. Maybe I'll write a book. I think it's fair to say that I have a unique perspective on the inner workings of the JHC, and I've been trying to figure out how I can share some of that behind-the-scenes perspective without offending anyone too badly. Then I realized if I was a nice guy, and the journal ads all seem to say that I'm a nice guy, I should probably write a letter to the person taking over my job as administrator. I could help him settle in, give him some sage words of advice. Perhaps he could even learn from some of my mistakes. If I had the time to write such a letter, it would probably read something like this. Dear new guy. Dear new guy. Welcome to the JHC and Mazel Tov on confirming your new and exciting job. It will certainly be challenging at times, but you will undoubtedly find it rewarding as well. Regarding Rabbi Portnoy and Rabbi Turk, there's so much I need to warn you about, tell you about. It won't take you long to realize that they're so different from each other in so many ways and have such opposite personalities. You may find, on the rare occasion, that they might disagree with each other regarding just about anything that comes up for discussion. Some people might even say that they tend to argue like an old married couple. I wouldn't say that, but some people might. The truth is, though, it's all part of their charm, and you shouldn't take it too seriously, and definitely don't get frustrated. Over time, you'll learn how to play one against the other, and eventually establish yourself as a critical, tie-breaking vote in their disagreements. You probably won't have to worry about the JHC hotel events too much, because I may still be around for that. But if you do end up eventually taking over these events, you really shouldn't stress over it too much. Even though there are several hundred people in attendance, everyone is always very polite and patient. They probably won't be bothering you at all. Even if they do have the occasional request, it's always something very reasonable, and most people understand if you can't help them right away. Speaking of our hotel events, I hope you guys are in the room. I'll give you a little inside information. If you're lucky enough to have any of the boys on staff, Chaim, Josh, David, or Shalom, the events will practically run themselves. Also, be sure to confirm the Friedman, Sklar, and Eatonberg families as early as possible, and you'll be fine. Just stay away from the pink balloons. Inside joke. One last item, on a more serious note. You're welcome. One last item on a more serious note. There may be times when you'll get a bit frustrated with the, shall we say, professional pace of the office, trying to get Rabbi Porto and Rabbi Turk in line with your own administrative goals and deadlines. It took me a while to figure this out, but you have to understand that although you're all basically working towards the same goal, your job descriptions are completely opposite. Your mission as administrator will be to get the job done, to complete the project, to check things off your daily to-do list. The rabbis of the JHC, however, have the exact opposite job description. This isn't the funny part. They're in the people business. And as cliche as this may sound, their job is never done, there is no project that is ever complete, and in the past 18 years, I can tell you they've never checked anyone off their list. I've been there a long time, so I can tease Rabbi Portnoy about his spending habits, or lack thereof. But eventually you'll come to admire the sincere yashrus that dictates his every financial decision, and you'll appreciate the importance he attaches to mammon hektish, money that's been given to tzedakah, and how careful he is to spend those funds. I can poke fun at Rabbi Turk about the length of time it takes to have a simple conversation with him, or to try to get him to sign off on a letter or brochure that has to get in the mail sometime today. But eventually you'll come to admire the incredible sensitivity he applies to every spoken or written word, and you'll appreciate the lengths he'll go to avoid offending another person. I think it's fair to say that I have a unique perspective on the inner workings of the JHC. So I can tell you that the amount of time they invest in the organization is astounding. The endless hours that they put into the work, they're just always available, 24/7, 365. The secret to their success, maybe not such a secret, is that there is nothing they won't do for their students. And this sincere care and concern for every individual applies not only to their students, but to their staff as well. And so, new guy, once again, mazel tov on your new job at the JHC. Keep in mind that while you may stay behind the scenes, you're very much a part of the success of the organization, and you have a chalik in everything they do. I hope you learn to appreciate the unique and incredibly talented individuals you're privileged to work with. Together with the newly expanded team at the Jewish Heritage Center, I wish you much bracha and atzlacha. Thank you, good night, bring out the dessert now.